This is Bishop Dr. Truman Boast. You from Good Shepherd Ministries.
And thank you for joining us here. This is Doc Truman, and this is from Good Shepherd Ministries, and this is Discoveries in Health. Every Thursday for 2 hours, that's what we do. And we talk about natural remedies. We always start the broadcast with prayer, and we keep all the microphones muted until we have opened the broadcast in prayer. So let's get started here. My telephone number is 503-362-5899. That's 503-362-5899. My email address is truman@herbalhealthreview.com. Just like the website, herbalhealthreview.com. And let's get started here. Let's get that whole body armor of God on. We sure need to do that every day these days. This is Ephesians 6:10-18, King James Version of the Bible. And it starts, Ephesians 6, verse 10. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand, therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. In Jesus Christ's name, we pray. Praise, worship, and thank you, the Most High God. In Jesus Christ's name, we praise and worship and thank the Most High God. And we receive his complete, continuous, endless, and limitless blessing for the glory and for the victory of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. In Jesus Christ's name, so be it. Amen. And that being said, now let's get over to open up the lines here for the brothers and sisters over there that are on. Well, they're in the dial pad room. Let's go and ask them to unmute your microphone if you have a question, a topic, or a suggestion. Let's talk about what you want to learn about today. And if you don't have anything, I have a lot prepared here today to share with you. And just one of the things that I wanted to share was some of the latest herbal science and research. Some of the latest science and research in herbal, in natural remedies. And we go over there to look at the Herbal Media Watch. And as of June 2nd, 2023, Science and Research reports that a low flavanol diet drives age-related memory loss, a large study finds. And then that's as of May 29, 2023. So let's get more flavanols. Flavanol-rich foods are like apples, blackberries. They can lower your chances of developing frailty. So this is research that we need to pay attention to. We have a lot of people having memory loss problems, and they do not know the natural foods that will support a healthy memory. And looking at the legal and the regulatory, what's going on there? Responding to the FTC 700 product claim notices, the nutrition industry executive, May 16, 2023. FDA seizes $3 million worth of kratom from Natural Products Insider. It's talking about that. May 8th, 2023. So, and what about community and industry? What's going on there in our Herbal Media Watch? WIN releases gender representation in nutraceutical industry leadership survey. Nutrition industry executive, May 15th, 2023. And there's a cannabis update. New study demonstrates safety and effectiveness of cannabinoids in supporting sleep quality. Nutritional Outlook, June 2nd, 2023. And the US CBD brands still battling declining sales. according to Natural Products Insider, June 2nd or June 1st, 2023. And an FDA official outlines harm reduction framework for CBD, according to the Natural Products Insider. And why the 2023 Farm Bill needs to clarify CBD's position in food and beverages and supplements. It needs to be clarified, and according to an article in Nutritional Outlook. And CBD is well tolerated in dogs, according to a new study from NASC and Nutrisource, according to Nutritional Outlook. So there is a lot of news, to be had regarding natural remedies, and there is science going on. You hear ignorant people saying that there's no science behind natural remedies. Well, that's because they're ignorant. They don't know. According to consumers, consumers embrace botanicals, and so according to Nutritional Outlook, consumers are really into botanical medicine and herbs and support, and trends in technology, how fermentation is changing the wellness and nutrition market. You're going to see more foods that are offering the fact that they are fermented, according to Nutritional Outlook, May 30th, 2023. And by the way, elderberry sales are declining, but experts aren't worried. And that's a Nutritional Outlook, and a hearty demand. Cardiovascular health supplements are still popular with seniors, according to Nutritional Outlook. The seniors are buying cardiovascular natural supplements, health supplements. They must be working, or they wouldn't be buying them. So the environment and conservation, well, nutrition industry supply chain and regenerative agriculture. There's news regarding that issue in the Nutrition Industry Executive. There's news about education, the 5 distinctive features of fungi, of funguses. There are medicinal funguses that support your health. Now, and that's according to Nutritional Outlook, April 27, 2023. So there's a lot of things going on in the community, and let's move on and let's find out what's going on with our sacred relationship with food. It's kind of been forgotten, and according to the Organic Consumer Association, what they're saying is they don't think it's a controversial statement to say that we have lost our relationship with food. But what does that mean? It means that our food has become divorced from the plants, animals, and traditions that it came from. We're no longer looking at that, and the American diet is filled with highly processed junk foods, and the average person would be justified in not knowing what ingredients were used to create the foods they eat. Over the past several decades, Americans have begun to realize that our food is making us sick. In a quest to understand why, we discovered that our food is filled with synthetic chemicals, preservatives, highly processed ingredients, and now even ingredients derived from synthetic biology. As a part of that realization, people people begin to notice that there were a few common commodity foods that seem to define junk food. As the food movement grew, people also began to find that the commodity ingredients in junk food were produced using chemical intensive industrial agriculture. And as if that was not enough, these same commodity ingredients are the most common GMOs, making them even more toxic and making the need to avoid them even greater. Let's get into this article a little deeper here. Guess we can. That's not. Well, let's. At some point along the line, many commodity crops became synonymous with chemicals, GMOs, and junk food. Over time, people begin to simply avoid the most common commodity ingredients entirely. People decided that corn, soy, wheat, and even meat and animal products were bad for you. That's the major consensus. But this article would like to propose an alternate perspective. It's not the plants and animals that are bad for us. It's that we have lost the traditions and agreements that built our mutually beneficial relationships with these plants and animals. But to understand that, I think we need to examine a teaching that Rowan White shared with the author of this article several years ago at the Indigenous Farming Conference in White Earth, Minnesota. The teaching that Rowan White shared was recorded in a podcast and later included in an article titled Cultivating Creation, Exploring Traditional Ecological Knowledge of Native Song. A long time ago, our ancestors came into an agreement with our plant relatives, the wild and cultivated ones. And particularly, there were particular plants, corn and beans and squash, and various ones that gave up a little of their wildness, and we gave up a little of our wildness as humans. And we came into this beautiful covenant that, and this agreement that we would care for each other. And there were some plants that I've been told that decided that they didn't want to be cultivated, and that we were going to have a different relationship to them. But those agreements, that covenant, that that sacred relationship, we carry those in our blood, in our bones, like wild rivers. They run in our blood and in our bones. That's the teaching of a native song. This teaching stuck with the author of this article. And a few years later, he became a Bear Island Flint corn seed keeper and began growing it on his farm. This corn is a traditional corn that was grown in northeastern Minnesota by the Anishinaabe people for many generations before the Europeans came. And as he researched the traditions and stories about how to take care of this corn, he found that when he took the time to build a balanced, regenerative systems that created communities of thriving organisms and microbiology, my efforts were reciprocated with healthy, fertile soil, and the corn began to produce enough beautiful seeds that he could afford to cook some. And at this point, he researched the traditional way to prepare corn and learned about the ancient tradition of nixtamalization. Nixtamalization, a process in which the corn is prepared with ashes of mineral and lime in a way that alters the corn and makes it more digestible and nutritious. And he prepared the corn and that he had grown in this way, and then processed it into tortillas and tamales. The tortillas and tamales were outstanding. It felt like he was tasting corn for the first time. But in reality, he was experiencing the reestablishment of his sacred relationship with this plant. He had worked hard and sacrificed to take care of this plant. This corn, this living being in a good way that supported the whole ecosystem. And in return, the corn gifted him with a delicious food. He was experiencing that relationship that Rowan White had described. But that experience was only possible because he sought out the traditional methods of caring for and preparing this traditional food. That wasn't the case when the Europeans first came to the Americas. They quickly adopted corn as a staple crop and began to depend on it both in Europe and in the American colonies. But since they did not follow the traditional method of nixtamalization, the corn was not a complete food. And it led to a disease called pellagra, which became an epidemic in the rural south of the United States in the early 1900s. So it was not that he had ignored corn until that day. He had consumed corn his whole life, in a galaxy of different foods and drinks. But it was not until that he tasted corn that had been raised in a traditional, interdependent and regenerative relationship that he woke up to the importance and beauty of corn. He realized that corn is not a generic commodity synonymous with GMOs and chemicals and empty calories. Corn is not those things, but rather those things are what we have done to corn. We have forgotten our sacred agreement and instead abused the plant in the name of greed and growth, and our failure to uphold that agreement has resulted in a food that is unhealthy, indigestible, and nearly tasteless. I wanted to share that with you because that's a very important thing to know. That we've got to reestablish our relationship. A lot of people are growing gardens now. They're not depending on the food chain supply because nothing is dependable these days. Everything is up in the air. That's the way it is. And that's not the way it should be. And that's a sad story. So that's it. Let's move on to another topic because we have a lot of things to share with you. But I wanted to touch on that because that's such an important thing that we need to get in touch with. We need to get in touch with our with our food, with the way it really needs to be grown and prepared. Food is not grown properly. They're just growing crops over the top of crops, and pouring in all the fertilizer and everything, and forcing it to grow. That's not working for the food chain, and it's not working for the people. We got to start growing our food in a sustainable way, and we need to look into that more. And it needs to be something that deserves some of our time and energy. So that being said, let's get over here. Let's get to another topic, unless a mic comes open. If a microphone comes open over there and you have a question, a topic, or a suggestion, we will talk about it. But let's talk about some more of the latest health and news from Alliance for Natural Health. And they're talking about how the Nobel Prize Summit sold out on Real Science. And this article as of June 12th, 2023. So this is new stuff, folks. From the Alliance for Natural Health International comes this article, the Nobel Prize Summit, held between the 24th and the 26th of May 2023, very recently, in Washington, D.C. It showcased how the war against the viral infection of misinformation and disinformation is to be fought by academic institutions, the mainstream media, and social media companies and governments. The summit's title, Truth, Trust, and Hope, is a reflection of a view held by the organizations and their backers. They uphold that unless this war is won, public trust in science is done for. Deservedly so. You may not be surprised to learn that cancel culture and artificial intelligence, AI, are expected to play key roles in the battle strategy against scientific misinformation. The great thing is not having a mind, writes Nobel laureate Louise Gluck in her poem, The Red Poppy. And what a great thing indeed for having a mind is perhaps one of the biggest obstacles in the way of authoritarianism. And the hunger of a few for extreme power. People's minds can be either a tool to further an agenda or a hindrance to achieving it. It depends from what perspective you choose to look at it. Well, we'll explore the idea of perspectives throughout this article. The Nobel Prize Summit begin by putting the assembled in-person and virtual audience into an almost trance-like state with a performance piece about mis and disinformation by film producer Smriti Kashari. Warning, don't be put off by the performer's disembodied mouth. The words which emanate from it are too insightful to be ignored. This is art for corporate science perfectionism's sake. Were their eyes or ears or nose or memory playing tricks on them? Did they see something that wasn't there? What were they to believe? Disinformation's web, tangled threads of falsehoods spread, truth obscured, misled. Extracts of the monologue from the Smriti Kashari's performance piece at the Nobel Prize Summit. It turns out that Kashari's piece was inspired by Samuel Beckett, 1972 monologue. Not that it is delivered in a similar way via an illuminated, seemingly disembodied mouth. Kashari borrowed another idea from Beckett's work, in which the previously voiceless protagonist begins to doubt her ability to find her voice, as well as her own memory, coming to the conclusion that memories could be false. Nobel Prize Summit listeners were taken on an emotional journey, which included the 130 years of Nobel Prize-worthy discoveries, as well as an experience of what some may consider misinformation and disinformation. Interesting. So these are things that are going on right now, and we've talked about these PFAs a few different times. So I'm I'm gonna skip that again today, but except for the fact that there is a new connection here, and we want to talk about the PFAS, the PFAS, and the tobacco connection. A brand new research article uh, as of June 12th, 2023. So PFAS, as the nation continues to focus attention on PFAS, these are forever chemicals. The research is increasingly telling us about the problem is far, far worse, far, far worse than previously imagined. The time to act is now. This is an action alert. And we've got an open microphone. Over there in Louisiana, do you have a question, a topic, or a suggestion, anything that you want to learn here today? Okay, I will close your mic, open your mic and let us know at any time if you have a comment, a suggestion, or a topic, something like that. But we're talking about an action alert on PFAS. For some time now, we've been sounding the alarm about the extensive contamination of the environment with PFAS chemicals, and what that means for human health. PFAS, or polyfluoroalkyl. That's polyfluoroalkyl. These substances are a group of chemicals used in hundreds of consumer products. They are nicknamed forever chemicals because they don't break down. They don't break down in the environment, and they accumulate in blood and organs. They don't go away. They're forever chemicals. PFAS. And after decades of being relatively unknown, PFAS contamination as a public health issue arose in the early 2000s when residents of Parkersburg, West Virginia sued DuPont for contaminating their town and wrecking their health. Since then, independent scientists and environmental health monitors have been taking a closer look at this issue. Unfortunately, it seems like the more that we find out, the worse the problem gets. Alliance for Natural Health USA will be shining a light on PFAS contamination in just a few weeks when they will release their very own pilot study. So stay tuned. You're not going to miss this project. We'll keep you updated. In the meantime, here's a roundup of PFAS news stories from just the last few weeks. The chemical industry using big tobacco's playbook. The chemical industry used the tactics of the tobacco industry to delay public awareness of the toxicity of PFAS, and in turn, delayed regulations governing their use. So now you're still using them because they pulled a legal snafu. These are the conclusions of a study looking at decades of internal documents from the chemical industry proving that manufacturers of PFAS chemicals knew They were dangerous, but concealed the information. We got way too much of that going on, folks. As they were hiding this information, companies lied to their own employees and the American public. In a 1980 DuPont memo, for example, told employees that PFAS chemicals were about as toxic as table salt. Big lie, huge lie, harmful lies. Yet as early as 1961, DuPont's chief toxologist found that very low doses of PFAS exposure enlarged rats' livers, recommending that PFAS be handled with extreme care in 1961. That's when I started this ministry. In 1970, a DuPont funded lab found PFAS to be highly toxic when inhaled and moderately toxic when ingested. In the early 1980s, a confidential internal report detailed birth defects among pregnant Teflon plant employees. But the company later said, we know of no evidence of birth defects accused by or caused by PFAS. They lied. These actions to conceal the truth about PFAS toxicity have endangered countless American lives and poisoned the environment. They have deliberately stalled regulatory actions against these chemicals and made sure it would be years before we fully understand the full impacts of PFAS. Astoundingly, the chemical industry is maintaining this line. They continue. They spout a lie and then they hang on to it as if it's the truth. In comments submitted to the EPA on the agency's new drinking water regulations for PFAS, the American Chemistry Council, an industry trade group, asserted that the current evidence provides limited support for any causal relationship between PFAS exposure and adverse health effects. It's clear that, like the tobacco industry, the chemical industry will defiantly defend their right to poison us to the very end. That's not the only link between PFAS and tobacco. Alliance for Natural Health reported recently on a study finding that elevated levels of PFAS chemicals in the blood were associated with weight gain. More research is confirming this effect. Another new study has found that children whose mothers are exposed to PFAS have an increased risk of low birth weight and obesity later in life, effects that are comparable to tobacco exposure. The authors have noted that this new study is more definitive than previous research finding this link because it includes a larger sample size, a greater geographic coverage, and a wider range of exposure levels. Contamination even worse than we thought. Federal testing of soil samples from New Hampshire found that levels of PFAS in the air and soil were much higher than previously thought. All 100 soil samples contained high levels of PFAS. And they were taken from land not near the polluters. Another study found that half of the PFAS found in drinking water samples collected in 16 states are not even monitored by the EPA. While the EPA did propose some limits on PFAS in drinking water, only a few chemicals are regulated in the proposal. This means that there will be communities that continue to be exposed to unmonitored PFAS. Thank you for the failure of the EPA. Nor do the EPA's proposed regulations take into account a major source of PFAS contamination. Researchers have found that PFAS precursors in firefighting foam can contaminate soil and groundwater, where they slowly transform into the substances targeted by the EPA. At some sites, these precursors can account for about half of all groundwater contamination by PFAS, but they are unregulated. Again, this all shows that the EPA is taking the scenic route when it comes to dealing with this human health environmental catastrophe. The EPA doesn't even acknowledge it exists. They're not there. They're backing up to the pay window to get their pay. All of these stories underscore the pressing need to ban PFAS chemicals as a class. So you want to contact Alliance for Natural Health, and you want to, they've got a action alert that you can write to Congress and the EPA and the state legislators and let them know you know, because they don't know you know, and they don't know. So it's really, we need to step up. This is where we need to sign and put your name here and fill that out. Yes, you do. I'll be doing that later. I'm definitely going to support that. And next, we're giving you all the latest here. So we took on the EPA just now. Might as well take on the FTC. Okay. There we go. And this is a brand new article, a new document as of 6/12/2023. And here's what's going on here. Alliance for Natural Health USA has submitted a Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, request to learn the real motivations for the FTC's attack on free speech in the natural products sector. And it's an action alert. We're asking people to step up and get involved and let our government know that we know, because they don't think enough of us know, and they don't know, and they don't care. So we got to rattle some cages here, folks. The Alliance for Natural Health, FOIA request stems from concerns that the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, recent guidance will have the effect of limiting consumer access to vital scientific information about the benefits of dietary supplements and other natural products. The Alliance for Natural Health believes the agency, FTC, is poised to start cracking down on health claims related to nutrients. And we want to learn how the new FTC policy was generated, which could potentially serve as the basis for a legal challenge to the agency's overreach. The FDA and FTC are constantly in an overreach scenario. Anyway, as Alliance for Natural Health said in their previous coverage of this topic, we're facing a government-led campaign to conceal the remarkable truth about the healing and disease preventing powers of foods and nutrients, ultimately misleading the public so that they spend their money on drugs rather than natural supplements. And this has been going on since 1940. FDA and FTC, bad news. Anyway, this new policy is the culmination of many years of work on the part of federal agencies to block Americans from learning about how to manage their health with natural products rather than FDA-approved drugs. The government is in the drug business. They're not in the natural food business. Matter of fact, they're adulterating the natural food as well. Government's got some things totally wrong that's causing a horrific. It's a horror story coming from the government. Here's how we get to this point. In a revision to its health products compliance guidance issue, December 2022, the FTC aims to impose drug standards on supplements, requiring expensive, randomized, controlled human clinical testing for supplement companies to make most health claims. The agency then sent out a barrage of 670 letters to companies, including those selling dietary supplements, homeopathic products, and functional foods, warning them that if they make claims without scientific substantiation to the level required by the FTC's new guidance, they will face large civil penalties up to $50,120 per violation. That's That's a mafioso scheme. Anyway, this is an absurd overreach that is a backhanded way of banning many health-related claims for supplements. And as we've explained many times, clinical trials are incredibly expensive. Drug companies can afford them because drugs are patentable and the costs can be recouped, which is what's wrong with the system. When the drug is approved and sold for exorbitant prices, nutrients generally cannot be strongly patented, so the costs of clinical trials cannot be recouped. The government knows this. So the attempt to require clinical trials for supplement claims is a backdoor ban on most claims. This makes sense if your goal is to protect the drug industry from competition, but not if you want to empower consumers with information so they can take control of their own health. And there's an open mic there in Texas. Do you have a question, topic, or suggestion?
No.
Okay, I will close your mic, and you are welcome to open it and ask us to talk about anything you want us to talk about. I'll close your mic now, but all you have to do is press the star key 2 times on your microphone anytime to open it up to join the discussion. We're talking about some evil moves by powerful government agencies, and this one's the FTC, and what they're doing, you know, they're undermining they're undermining consumer access to information on natural health products. Has been the government's project since 1940. And I'm a witness. Alliance for Natural Health USA and other stakeholders had to sue the FDA to allow information about folate's role during pregnancy in preventing neural tube defects in an unborn child. Prior to this legal victory, supplement manufacturers were not permitted to let consumers know about this important nutrient relationship, and many consumers were in the dark. Alliance for Natural Health has in fact filed 9 precedent-setting lawsuits against the FDA, which have established qualified health claims for saw palmetto, omega-3 fatty acids, fiber, vitamin E, vitamin B, and selenium. We're fighting for you to be able to get the correct information from the government, which you cannot. For years, the FDA and the FTC have been working together to limit our knowledge about the benefits of supplements. The FDA infamously attacked cherry and walnut growers for citing peer-reviewed research about the benefits of those foods. Cherries and walnuts, you're not allowed to cite what health benefits they have. The FDA invented the term implied disease claim to ban many legal claims about supplements. The truthful claim that niacin lowers cholesterol is considered by the FDA to be an implied claim that the product is a treatment for hypercholesterolemia. So the truthful information is banned. You can't have that. The FDA has banned supplements from making claims about helping with inflammation and hangovers because the agency considers those to be diseases. It's an Alice in Wonderland approach, and that's what I told the judge, Chief Judge Ann Akins, when I faced down the FDA on September 24th, 2013. I said that the FDA has a Alice in Wonderland approach. Things aren't what they are. They are what they say they are. That's Alice in Wonderland. That's our government, FTA, FDA, and FTC, and a bunch of other agencies with similar acronyms. It's disgusting. They're doing this to human beings, to us, to us. What? For profit. That's what. To serve their masters. The FDA has banned supplements from making claims about helping with inflammation and hangovers because the agency considers those to be diseases. And they do that with everything. Everything is a disease. If I said an apple was good for your stomach, then the apple becomes a drug, and I become a drug dealer, and I'm supposed to go to jail. What is wrong with these people? That's what I've had to live with here, trying to get this information to you. See, I'm supposed to be the bad guy because I'm giving you this information, which then is deemed misinformation. All of this is deemed misinformation by evil people, including the FDA and FTC. Anyway, Alliance for Natural Health reported on the FTC's campaign against XClear, a nasal spray company, for discussing the results of more than a dozen studies demonstrating the plausibility of using its nasal spray to help with COVID. Oh, there's so many more examples. I've got 14,000 of them. This isn't about protecting an unsuspecting public from fraudulent actors selling snake oil. That's what they claim. Yeah, these are bad people. And as examples above show, the practical effect of these actions, including the FTC's recent salvo of letters, is to prevent the FDA receives 45% of its operating budget directly from the drug companies in the form of user fees used for the approval of new drugs, biologics, and devices. Anyway, help AN's Alliance for Natural Health to throw the light on these evil people and sign and go on their website, Alliance for Natural Health, and let your politicians know, senators, representatives, and the FTC, let them know we know what a crummy job they're doing, and they got to do a better one. Anyway, let's move on. Talking about these things is what has to happen, because people don't know about this. This is stuff you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to learn this, folks. So if you heard it live, you may never hear it again because it'll probably be buried somewhere. Shadow banned, etc. That's what they do. Anyway, Alliance for Natural Health counterpunches the FTC in a free speech fight. And this is as of 6/12. So Alliance for Natural Health USA has submitted a Freedom of Information Act. Is this to the, which the request stems from we need to request TC's attack on speech in the natural pro health is standing. So we talked about that already, and about a week ago. New study